Our story begins with Hannah, a sweet, sensitive girl with an extraordinary talent for baking. She's a brilliant chef who creates mouthwatering treats right from her small home kitchen. Every day, she prepares unique pastries and then delivers them herself to a famous local bakery. The staff at that bakery are completely fascinated by the mystery baker whose creations make the shop's best-selling items, yet none of them have ever seen her face. Only the owner, Hannah's uncle and mentor, knows her true identity. The bakery is called Le Souvar, a well-known name in town, and its most popular dessert is the Rain Palette, the signature item Hannah secretly makes, one that people line up to buy the moment it hits the shelves. Soon, we meet our male lead, Fuji, the CEO of a large confectionery company. He comes from a wealthy family, and after his father's passing, he's now responsible for managing the entire business. But Fuji struggles with a serious psychological issue. If he physically touches anyone, he experiences intense anxiety and panic attacks. Even a simple handshake can send him into shock. During an important company presentation, his hand accidentally brushes against an employee's, and immediately his body freezes, his breathing shortens, and he has to rush out of the room, leaving the entire meeting in chaos. This condition wasn't always there. It was triggered by a deep trauma in his past. Along with this, he suffers from severe germophobia. Even a small stain on his shirt makes him anxious enough to change into a fresh one, which is why he always carries extra clothes wherever he goes. Meanwhile, Hannah lives in her quiet little world, battling her own kind of psychological struggle, social anxiety. She cannot maintain eye contact with others, and being in public makes her panic. Once, she even participated in a baking competition where she was performing incredibly well, but halfway through, the fear of being watched overwhelmed her, and she ran away, abandoning everything. That's why, despite her extraordinary talent, she never applied to work in any big bakery, nor did she start her own business. Instead, she delivers pastries for her uncle's shop and earns just enough to live. Before his passing, her uncle would often tell her, "Your birthday is coming soon, and I have a surprise for you. You must step out into the world. Let's go out together for your favorite dinner this year." He cared deeply for Hannah. After all, she had no one else in the world but him. The old man's biggest wish was to see her healed, happy, and with someone who truly cared for her before he left this world. One day, he visits a local bar and meets a young man named Hiroshi. He asks him, half jokingly, if he would consider going on a date with his niece. Hiroshi agrees without hesitation. As it turns out, Hannah has secretly had a crush on Hiroshi for a long time, ever since the day he saved her from being hit by a car. He never even noticed her, but to Hannah, that small act of kindness made him a hero in her eyes. Since then, she's watched his singing videos online, feeling a quiet affection she never dared to express. We're then introduced to another important character, Drive. Irene, a psychiatrist and Fuji's former classmate. She once had a crush on him but was rejected, not knowing at the time that he suffered from a psychological disorder. She tells him now, "I used to think you were cold-hearted for rejecting me, but now I understand, it wasn't me, it was your illness." Dr. Irene often helps Fuji through counseling and group therapy sessions where people share their struggles and find comfort in one another. But Fuji's blunt nature ruins one session when he says something so disheartening that it makes the others cry, dismissing their progress entirely. Meanwhile, Hannah's birthday arrives. Though her uncle insists on her going out, she doesn't have the courage to dress up. She wears the simplest outfit possible, one that makes her blend in like a waitress at the restaurant. She arrives quietly and waits, only to realize that her uncle isn't coming. When she calls him, he confesses, "I lied, Hannah. I'm not there, but Hiroshi is. Go talk to him. It's time for you to step out of your shell." But Hannah's fear overwhelms her. She hides in the corner, avoids making eye contact, and slips away without saying a single word to Hiroshi. Later, she rushes to her uncle's bakery, feeling guilty for not doing what he asked, only to find him collapsed from a heart attack. Despite her desperate attempts, She loses him that night. The only person who ever truly understood her is gone. With him, she loses not just her family, but her only source of income and connection to the world. On the other side, Fuji's life is falling apart as well. His father scolds him harshly, shouting, "If you can't even control yourself during a presentation, how will you ever run this company?" But Fuji insists, "My ideas are good. You know they are." His father finally gives him one last chance. He assigns Fuji to take over a recently acquired bakery, which, by fate, turns out to be Hana's late uncle's bakery. "Run it successfully," his father says, "and I'll consider you capable." Hana, meanwhile, is lost. With her uncle gone and the bakery sold, she doesn't know how she'll survive. She eventually learns that Fuji's company has cancelled her secret pastry contract, calling it unacceptable that an anonymous person supplies their best-selling item. With no other option, Hana decides to go to the bakery herself. She arrives wearing dark glasses to hide her nervous eyes, and when someone mistakes her for a new applicant, she nervously nods yes. Moments later, she's sitting before Fuji for an interview. He questions her experience, but she can barely speak, too shy to explain that she's the mysterious baker behind their success. Yet Fuji, struggling himself, senses something familiar in her quiet presence. When she softly says, "I have a social phobia," his heart recognizes her honesty. He sees sincerity in her love for baking and offers her a job. For Hana, stepping into a workplace filled with people is terrifying. The moment she enters the bustling bakery, she panics, runs to the back, and startles Fuji so badly that he spills his coffee. As the cup falls, she instinctively catches it, and their hands touch. He tries to pull away, but for the first time, he feels no panic. She too looks up and meets his eyes directly, something she has never done before. For a long, quiet moment, they just stare at each other, both shocked that neither is reacting the way they always do. Fuji's mother's words echo in his mind. "Someday, you'll meet someone whose touch won't frighten you. That person might be your soulmate." He whispers to himself in awe, "Could it be her?" Hana blushes and softly says, "You must be the bad boy of my life." Later, Fuji visits Drive Irene, who notices a slight burn on his hand from the spilled coffee. He tells her with surprise, "For the first time, I touched a girl and nothing happened." Irene smiles warmly and says, "Maybe you found the one. Maybe you should think about keeping her close." Fuji chuckles awkwardly, "I don't think she's my type. But destiny clearly thinks otherwise." Hana struggles at work every day, accidentally dropping trays or breaking dishes whenever someone gets too close. Yet, each time, Fuji silently stands behind her, protecting her, excusing her mistakes with kindness. Then, a new problem arises. Their supplier suddenly refuses to deliver ingredients, believing the company unfairly fired one of his close friends, the senior baker Fang. Without his supplies, the bakery can't operate. Fuji decides they'll visit him personally to clear the misunderstanding. Since Hana speaks Korean, the supplier's native language, Fuji asks her to come along. As they drive together, another man joins them, Hiroshi, Fuji's old classmate, and Hana's longtime crush. She's thrilled to see him again, while Fuji remains distant and cautious, constantly sanitizing his hands. Along the way, Hiroshi chats casually, telling her, "I'm a musician. I have a small bar near the bakery." She smiles shyly and says, "I'll definitely visit your bar someday." When their car breaks down in the countryside, Fuji steps out and immediately panics after stepping into mud, frantically cleaning himself while Hana watches in disbelief. Then, when she tries to help, she slips and falls into the mud herself. Fuji hesitates to touch her but eventually helps using a stick, which only makes her more annoyed. At that exact moment, Hiroshi appears and offers his hand, pulling her out gently, once again, her charming hero. Finally, they reach the supplier's house but are told he's at his farm and will return later. His wife lets them rest in a guest room. When Hiroshi receives a call from a drunk friend asking for help, he rushes off, leaving Fuji and Hana alone in the room. As Hana dozes off, Fuji can't stop thinking about that strange moment when he touched her without fear. Slowly, he leans closer, wanting to confirm if it was real, but just as he reaches out, Hana opens her eyes. Luckily, he had only been imagining it. A moment later, the supplier finally arrives, a loud, energetic man who bursts into the room asking, "So, you're the people from the company? And you're the CEO?" As soon as the loud supplier entered the room, Hana immediately hid behind Fuji, startled by his booming voice and heavy presence. Fuji wanted to protect her, though he himself was just as nervous. The supplier suddenly laughed and said, "You two haven't eaten anything yet, have you? Come, we'll eat together." His tone was naturally loud and rough, but his intentions were friendly. During dinner, Hana slowly realized that everyone had misunderstood Fuji. People said he had fired their senior worker, Mr. Fang, unfairly, but in reality, Fuji had personally arranged his retirement because of medical issues and had even paid all of his hospital bills. When the supplier learned the truth, his attitude changed completely. He looked guilty and said to Fuji, "I misunderstood you. I'm so sorry." As they continued eating, a bit of food accidentally spilled onto Fuji's shirt. The moment he noticed the stain, panic flashed in his eyes. He quickly excused himself and rushed to the bathroom, messaging Hana in a hurry, "Please bring me a clean shirt." Hana quietly walked to her bag, picked one up, and knocked on the bathroom door. When she handed it to him, he said nervously, "This one's already dirty too. There's another spot here. Bring another one." Hana was confused, thinking, why is he opening the door shirtless again and again? Why does he keep asking for more shirts? Finally, she picked up a traditional outfit that had been given to them earlier as a gift and passed it through the door. He wore it, and when he stepped out, she couldn't help smiling softly. The traditional look suited him perfectly. Their deal with the supplier was now complete, and as a gesture of goodwill, he invited them to enjoy the nearby hot springs. Later that evening, both Fuji and Hana sat in separate hot spring baths, divided by a thin wall. Hana started humming a gentle song, her voice flowing softly through the steam. On the other side, Fuji listened. In silence, completely mesmerized. Her song touched something deep inside him. From behind the wall, they started talking. Hana said, "You know, just like Mr. Fang had his own secret, everyone in this world hides something inside." Fuji smiled faintly. "And what about you?" he asked. She replied quietly, "My secret is that I can't make eye contact with anyone. It scares me." Fuji looked down at his trembling hands and said softly, "Then I suppose my secret is that I can't touch anyone." At that moment, they both realized how much they understood each other. For the first time in his life, Fuji felt truly at peace sharing his truth. Later that night, deeply moved by her words, he made a decision: he would renew the contract with the anonymous baker. He sent an email right away. The message reached Hana's inbox almost instantly, and as she read it, a bright smile appeared on her face. She thought to herself, maybe Fuji isn't the heartless person I imagined him to be. The next morning, before leaving, she reached out her hand to say goodbye, pretending to check something, while Fuji, who usually avoided touch, bravely extended his own. For the handshake ceremony that they were supposed to attend, Fuji wrapped a bandage around his hand and, instead of shaking hands himself, asked Hana to do it in his place. In return, Hana made eye contact with people on his behalf. It felt as if they had become each other's remedy, her eyes for him, his hands for her. Later, on their way back, Hana was eager to go home. She had a double order to deliver and a long night of baking ahead. Fuji glanced at her as they drove and said quietly, "I've noticed something. You can't make eye contact with people, but when it comes to me, you don't look away." Meanwhile, we see Drive. Irene and Hiroshi. Earlier, Hiroshi had received a call from a drunk girl at his bar asking him to come immediately. It turned out to be Irene herself. Hiroshi brought her home safely and even prepared breakfast for her the next morning. She sat comfortably at his table, smiling mischievously. You know, she said, I'm so beautiful. How can you stay so calm around me? Why don't you just admit it and compliment me? Hiroshi ignored her teasing with a quiet smile, and soon she left, forgetting her coat behind in her hurry. Back at Le Suvar, Hannah had started delivering pastries every morning and working full shifts during the day. Because of the workload, she barely got any sleep. Fuji noticed it too. The exhaustion on her face, the slow movements, the way she sometimes nodded off at her table. One day, another challenge appeared in Fuji's professional life. The bakery's signature wasabi chocolate was losing popularity fast. Sales had dropped sharply, and the team gathered to discuss possible reasons. The head chef, an older woman, shook her head firmly. The original recipe made by our master was perfect, she said. There's no need to change anything. If sales continue to fall, it's better to discontinue the product than ruin its legacy. Hannah froze. She couldn't bear the thought of her late master's creation being erased. She wanted to speak up, to defend his recipe, but fear held her back. Later, during her counseling session with Dr. Irene, she brought it up while sitting with her helmet still on, as always. I wanted to talk today, she said quietly, but I couldn't. My voice just wouldn't come out. Irene smiled gently. You tried. That's already a step forward. Next time, maybe you'll be brave enough to speak. At the same time, Fuji was discussing the issue with the anonymous baker via email, unaware that it was Hannah herself. She replied, offering not only advice but also a revised recipe, saying she would create and send a new version soon. She spent the whole night experimenting, making slight changes and adding her own touch. When she tasted it, it was perfect. The next day, she delivered both the new chocolates and the updated recipe. Fuji was eagerly waiting. He immediately gathered his team and asked them to taste it. The head chef took a bite, her eyes widened, and she said, I admit it, this is even better than the original. Hannah stood silently in the corner, hiding her pride, her lips trembling with happiness. No one knew it was her creation. Later, the team decided to celebrate. Let's go out together, one of them said. We have a new member to welcome. Hannah tried to refuse, but they playfully dragged her along. They ended up at Hiroshi's bar. Everyone was laughing, singing, and enjoying the night. Hannah sat quietly in a corner, staring down at her drink. When her colleagues insisted, come on, Hannah, sing something too, she remembered Drive. Irene's words. Next time, be a little braver. She took the microphone and began singing softly. For a moment, her voice was steady, beautiful, but as soon as she looked up and saw the faces watching her, panic gripped her. The room started spinning. She was about to collapse, until she heard Fuji's voice from the crowd calling her name. She looked at him, and instantly, her fear melted away. Everyone else disappeared from her sight. She could only see him. Fuji walked up, took the mic gently, and said to everyone, I have an announcement. Tonight's drinks are on me. The crowd cheered loudly, forgetting all about Hannah, who slipped quietly outside. Moments later, Fuji paid the bill and followed her out. It was raining heavily. Hannah was running through the rain, tears mixing with the drops on her cheeks. He caught up, holding out his umbrella and saying softly, my umbrella is big enough for two. You can come under it if you want. She shook her head, her voice trembling, I'm not crying. It's just the rain in my eyes. Fuji looked at her and said gently, I understand your problem. You can't make eye contact with anyone except me. And my problem is that I can't touch anyone except you. As he said that, he took her hand and pulled her gently under his umbrella. I can't watch you getting drenched like this, he whispered. But only a few seconds later, his fear took over. His hands began to tremble. He stepped back, stammering, I'm sorry. I can't see myself getting wet either. He snatched the umbrella from her and ran away. Hannah ran after him through the rain until they both ended up back at the bakery, soaked. Inside, Fuji immediately changed into a dry shirt and turned to her. Why did you follow me? He asked. Were you worried about me? She nodded and said softly, yes. You came after me too, didn't you? They looked at each other for a long moment, both realizing they were no longer alone in their fears. They confessed their conditions to one another, his fear of touch, her fear of people. For the first time, they both felt understood. Hannah said quietly, I just have one wish. I hope one day I can meet the person I love with the same confidence I feel when I'm with you. Fuji's heart sank. He looked at her and asked softly, you mean, there's someone you already like? Hannah finally admits softly that yes, it is a one-sided love. Fuji looks at her for a long moment, his expression calm yet filled with understanding. Then he speaks gently, saying that perhaps destiny brought them together for a reason. Maybe they can help each other heal. He tells her that if they both understand one another's emotions and practice together, they might learn how to connect with the rest of the world more easily. After a moment, Fuji steps closer. His voice drops, filled with a tenderness she didn't expect. Let's try something a little more real, he says, and gently pulls her into a hug. For a second, Hannah freezes. It has been years since she has held anyone so close. But then something inside her breaks open. He continues to work tirelessly, believing he is building something meaningful, unaware that the foundation of his efforts is already being taken away. Hannah's life begins to shift as well. One day, she receives a phone call. The name on the screen makes her heart skip a beat. It's Hiroshi. He doesn't know that she is the same Hannah he once tried to meet. His voice is calm and polite as he says, my master once recommended you to me. I waited for you that day, but you never came. However, you left your coat at the restaurant. I'd like to return it to you. Can we meet again? And they decide to meet on Sunday at 12 o'clock. Meanwhile, Fuji calls her once more and says, shall we practice again today? Let's go somewhere busy, a restaurant maybe, to practice how to sit and eat among people. Hannah agrees immediately, unaware that the restaurant he has chosen is the same one where Hiroshi asked to meet her. They arrive and take a seat. Hannah sits stiffly, wearing her sunglasses, her hands folded on the table. Hannah slowly removes her sunglasses, and in that instant, her gaze locks onto Hiroshi. The intensity and warmth in her eyes make Fuji break out in a nervous sweat. His heart races, his palms grow clammy, and he excuses himself, running off to change his shirt. Not once, but twice, because of the heat and tension. What he doesn't know is that his father has arrived at the same restaurant for a business meeting. Fuji freezes as his father introduces him to a business partner, extending his hand. Hannah, quick and graceful, steps forward as his assistant, shaking hands smoothly, saving Fuji from embarrassment. Yet, their carefully planned date is quietly ruined. They leave and sit in the car, finally relaxing over burgers. Hannah teases, I wish my crush were as gentle as you, and as fragrant too. Fuji laughs softly. Maybe he is more handsome, and perhaps harder working, but he could never be more fragrant than me, he replies, his voice firm yet playful. Indeed, no one could outmatch the scent that clung to him after repeated shirt changes. Suddenly, something smudges Hannah's face. She quickly wipes it away, and Fuji's pulse jumps again. The heat returns, his hands trembling, and he must retreat once more to change his shirt. Later, Fuji visits Irene, sharing the whirlwind of his life. Irene smiles knowingly. It seems like a real romantic story is unfolding for you. You fled with her, ate burgers together. It's like a love triangle has formed. Fuji denies it, refusing to admit that he has fallen in love, though deep down he knows the truth. A new challenge awaits Fuji. A liquor supply deal for Le Savre has changed hands, and the new owner must be convinced. It is no simple task. Rigorous interviews, careful questioning, and secret verifications make the process daunting. Fuji steps in, guiding and mentoring those involved. Hannah, meanwhile, prepares herself for her own date with Hiroshi, practicing table manners meticulously. Fuji invites her to assist him with the Gabriel project, but she refuses firmly, determined to follow her plan. Still, Fuji shadows her, insisting, "This is your last chance. Come with me. This contract is crucial." Cars line up behind them, people watching and laughing, yet Hannah avoids all gazes, slipping into the car. She scolds him sharply in Korean, a word whose meaning he does not fully grasp, yet he knows it is not a compliment. Hannah faces a dilemma. She video calls Irene for guidance, explaining, "Imagine some boy meeting you in my place. I have already waited so long, and your path is complicated." Irene smiles, proud that Hannah is navigating life and friendship independently. She accompanies Hannah outside the restaurant but cannot intervene once Hiroshi appears seated. Hannah panics and flees, Hiroshi noticing but unable to stop her. Irene, exasperated, admits she cannot help, apologizing for failing the task. Their journey continues to a beautiful location, trees stretching for blocks, where Fuji and Hannah meet with a supplier. The supplier's daughter now runs the business after her mother passed 2 years ago, honoring her mother's wish for secrecy. Any deviation in quality would signify failure. Hannah tastes the products, noting subtle changes, and praises the recipe. "This is brilliant, perhaps even better than your mother's," she says. The daughter beams, relieved and grateful. Fuji, too, feels a surge of joy, seeing Hannah's expertise bring success. Under the shade of the trees, Fuji carefully removes a petal from a plant, a quiet gesture of tenderness. On the way back, Hannah scolds him playfully, blaming him for the chaos in her love life, yet acknowledging that his skill at expressing feelings and his protective nature are part of what makes him special. He assures her, "I may seem rude or harsh, but I will show you what love feels like. Even from afar, you will see it." During group counseling, Fuji reflects on love, thinking of Hannah. His pulse quickens, yet he admits, "I've never truly been in love," despite the racing heartbeat that betrays him. Hannah devises another plan involving Hiroshi. At a fencing arena, she removes her helmet, admitting, "I waited for you, and I'm sorry. I was scared, but I love you." The moment overwhelms him. He runs, and she freezes, unsure where to hide her face. Then the shocking revelation: Hiroshi is not there. Standing before her is Fuji, listening to her confession. He quietly retreats, allowing her to process, while she marvels at how to recover from the embarrassment gracefully. Meanwhile, a new issue arises with the chocolate company. Their orange-flavored chocolate is called into question by a customer, who longs to relive a childhood memory with its taste. The customer's terminally ill sister requests it as her final wish. Fuji understands immediately and consults the head chef. They trace the recipe, discover an elderly woman who originally worked on it, and invite her to assist. With determination, she travels by train, ready to recreate the flavor she once perfected. The team works under her guidance, testing and refining until the chocolate meets the exact standard. The customer's sister tastes it, and the joy on both their faces is palpable. Fuji experiences genuine happiness, realizing the fulfillment that comes from helping others. Later, during counseling, he reflects aloud, "I feel as if I want to change myself for someone else." A lady listening says, "Hearing that inspires me to change as well." Even her habit of taking small things without permission transforms into awareness and growth. Finally, Fuji takes Hannah to a club, the same location where Hiroshi once appeared. She tries to avoid him, but Hiroshi confronts her, insisting, "Your coat is with me." Fuji steps in, asserting himself, and protects her from discomfort. He gently places his hand over her eyes to shield her from pain, attentive and caring. On the way down, he worries for her, aware of her phobia. He softly says, "You came here with me. This is the girl I'm interested in." Everyone around is amazed at his devotion, yet Hannah remains calm, resting against him, knowing she is safe. He says, "Of course, I'm interested in you. But today," an employee tells him, "I'm really concerned about your mental health," and he also adds, "There's no need to feel embarrassed in front of Hiroshi." That sword belonged to me, and that day, I was the one who came to fence in her place. And just like that, he walks away, while over there, Irene is sitting quietly. Later, she shares her story with Hiroshi. She had never trusted love and never wanted to spend her life with just one person, and behind all this was a trauma. Her mother had been completely careless, and as soon as she felt she had found a better person, she abandoned little Irene and left home. That was why she developed a hatred for love. No matter how hard Hiroshi tried, she says, I cannot be yours, because I have no place for love or marriage in my life. This is what life has taught me. Hearing this, Razi feels deeply hurt and asks, then why did you come to see me today? She replies, it was an incident. Then he says, maybe it's okay, and we keep meeting again. The staff is told, everyone, get ready, we are going on a vacation where we will also study some details at a winery to create a new recipe. Hearing this, everyone becomes excited and even suggests, why not take Hiroshi along? At first, he doesn't want to go, but when he finds out they are heading to Nagano, the very place where Irene is spending the weekend, he immediately agrees. They set off along the strip, arriving at a breathtaking lavender field. Hiroshi sits alone. Then she comes over. The same girl who had made him wait twice. The one Master Chef had wanted him to meet on a blind date. He smiles. It's okay. I forgive you. I understand why you didn't come. She and Fuji as a couple look perfect together. He gestures toward Hana and Fuji, sitting together in the fields. On their feet, climbing, Hana doesn't like the name Mati, but she doesn't want to leave Hana's side, secretly listening to their conversation. She denies being his girlfriend, saying, I love someone else. The words escape her mouth too quickly. When asked who, she just says, request. Hiroshi believes that people often torture themselves and thinks it's better for her to be with Fuji. Hiroshi then starts planning with the others, deciding that everyone will board the bus, lock the doors, and leave Fuji and Hana alone to find their own path. This way, they get some private time together. Fuji takes Hana to a beautiful spot. Observing closely, she realizes the wallpaper on his phone is hers. Hana explains that in reality, the photo didn't capture her father. He was a tourist obsessed with travel, often neglecting home and family. Yet he never forgot to give her chocolates, inspiring her dream to make chocolates herself. Fuji confesses, I've often felt that you doubt yourself, but honestly, you're amazing. Seeing you makes me smile. Sometimes, though, your anger is scary, and I admit I'm afraid of you. Hana laughs. Meanwhile, Hiroshi tries to get closer to Irene, but she leaves as usual. Hana has had a little too much to drink with friends. Concerned, Fuji deliberately stays with her in the elevator so she doesn't get off on the wrong floor. Until she safely reaches her floor, he doesn't leave. The next morning, before they return, Fuji has prepared a surprise. They visit a senior woman in a nearby village who had retired to relax. Seeing all of them, she's delighted. Fuji thanks her for helping with his treatment and tells Hana, you are the anonymous chef I had noticed from the back. I want you to share your talent with the world. Hana, once shy and uncomfortable in crowds, gradually begins showing a positive change. She starts interacting confidently with everyone. Then Fuji receives alarming news. His father insists that all recipes from last ever must be acquired quickly, or the store will close. Fuji keeps this secret from Hana. Irene learns about Hana, Fuji, and Hiroshi forming a love triangle, telling him, maybe I am not capable enough to counsel you. She had refused to see Hiroshi. Hana reaches out to Hiroshi, who is depressed because of Irene, and he's drunk. She tries to speak to him, but he doesn't respond clearly, mistaking her for Irene, claiming, why don't you love me back? Fuji arrives just in time and sees the misunderstanding. Hana cooks at home one night, but the power is cut due to an unpaid bill, leaving her ingredients exposed. She hides and continues cooking alone, preparing everything carefully for morning delivery. Fuji arrives, and she tries to hide, saying she came early to pick up something that fell. Her delivery bag is nearby. Before he can react, she blocks him, taking responsibility. Fuji remembers the scene with Hiroshi and realizes nothing more needs to be practiced. Everything is already set between them. He goes to his father, trying to convince him to let Last Ever compete in the World Chocolate Competition, promising increased publicity and business benefits. The head chef, saddened, thinks the competition should be represented by Last Ever itself, not an anonymous chef they've never seen. Hannah helps, presenting recorded videos as if the anonymous chef is instructing them. She trains the staff flawlessly without revealing the chef's identity. Later, she finds some proposals related to Last Ever's closure, breaking her heart. She had shared secret recipes, fearing Fuji, like others, might shut the store. But Takashi, Fuji's cousin and secretary, reassures him it's okay, they don't need the recipes. Fuji tells Hannah the only way to save Last Ever is to win the competition. The head chef sees Hannah's sincerity and decides Fuji should represent the shop. Hannah resigns, leaving a letter to Fuji and thanks to everyone, sharing her struggles. She had lived a confined life but enjoyed connecting with the team, gaining confidence. Fuji, worried, finds she has left, but a magazine reveals a secret ingredient used by Master Chef for his championship win. Hannah heads abroad to procure it. Meanwhile, Hiroshi meets Drive. Irene, sharing his childhood trauma. His mother abandoned him, and his father was cruel. He respects her choice to avoid love. Fuji asks Hiroshi to find Hannah, warning danger. Hiroshi hesitates, but Fuji insists, revealing he saw Hiroshi kiss her while drunk, mistaking her for Irene. Hiroshi finally understands the truth from Hannah. She had always been drawn to him, remembering he saved her life once. From that day, she watched him, falling in love quietly. Fuji, upon learning this, rushes abroad where Hannah faces danger. Bandits attack, but Fuji arrives, fighting them off and protecting her. Hannah tends to his injuries, assuring him, "You are my boss, and I care for you," but he insists she is no longer his employee. He offers her a chance to represent Last Ever in the World Chocolate Competition and win first prize for Japan. Hannah accepts, gathering confidence and the necessary ingredients. Together, they find the key lady who reveals that the previous year's ingredient was slightly flawed, yet her testing proved its potential. She realizes even damaged ingredients can have greatness. Hannah vows to win, using her own hands and recipes, accepting Fuji's offer. Fuji's father falls ill, prompting emergency management and a vote of no confidence by Takashi, who tries to sabotage him. Fuji handles it calmly, winning shareholder trust. The head chef's wife, holding decisive shares, votes for Fuji, recognizing his leadership and kindness. On stage, Hannah nervously presents her recipes, guided silently by Fuji, who left his meeting to be by her side. She succeeds, winning the competition. She hugs Fuji, saying, "I love you," and he understands completely. They become a couple. Fuji wins the board vote as well, and Hannah realizes she has always loved him, gaining confidence to express it. Finally, Fuji visits Kashi, a senior figure, telling him of his and his father's dedication to the company. He assures Kashi he wants to lead together, with Takashi conceding defeat. Fuji visits his father, fulfilling his last wish. Last Ever flourishes with increased fame and profits. The day of Fuji and Hannah's wedding arrives. Hiroshi attends. Irene sits beside him, admitting she wants to give love a chance. She displays the gift Hiroshi gave her. He takes her hand, signaling a love beginning. The groom arrives, calling Hannah, who freezes from social anxiety. Fuji holds her hand and guides her, running together through the wedding, making everyone laugh. Irene resumes counseling classes with a special surprise guest, Song Young, marking the drama's heartwarming ending. The story concludes with triumph, love realized, misunderstandings cleared, and dreams achieved.